for so many people, millions really, long COVID is still this huge question mark, these symptoms that just drag on for months, sometimes years. It's incredibly frustrating.
It really is. And a core part of that frustration, I think, has been the diagnosis itself,
Right.
or the lack of a clear one.
Yeah, exactly. You feel sick, but there's no test result that says why, definitively.
Right. Doctors have had to rely heavily on patient descriptions, their reported symptoms, which are vital, of course, but it leaves everyone wanting that concrete biological evidence.
Which is why what we're digging into today feels so significant. Scientists might have actually found the first sort of measurable sign of long COVID. They're even calling them ghost proteins.
Ghost proteins, it sounds dramatic, but it points towards something physical, something potentially hidden that could be causing these persistent symptoms.
It really does. And the potential here is, well, it's pretty huge, isn't it?
It's potentially transformative. I mean, think about it moving from relying solely on subjective reports, which are so hard to quantify, to an objective biological marker.
That would be a game changer. For diagnosis, certainly, but maybe even for treatments down the line.
Absolutely. It opens up completely new avenues. If we can measure it, we can understand it better and hopefully treat it more effectively.
So this deep dive is all about that. We're mostly drawing from a SciTech Daily article that just came out August 19th, 2025. Consider this your shortcut to getting up to speed on some really critical new research.
Our goal is really to unpack it. What are these ghost proteins? How did they find them? And, what could this actually mean for people dealing with long COVID?
Let's start with the current picture.
Yeah.
How difficult is diagnosing long COVID right now?
Well, it's tough. Dr. William Stringer, who's one of the senior authors on this study from the Lundquist Institute, basically described it like this. If someone comes in with typical symptoms, say 12 weeks or more after they first got sick,
Right.
he gives them what's called a presumptive diagnosis. But, and this is the key part, there aren't any blood tests, no biomarkers to actually confirm it.
So it's based on symptoms and timing, but no lab test says, yes, this is definitely long COVID.
Exactly, and that's the gap this new research is trying to fill. A very significant gap.
And what they found is just, wow, actual fragments of the virus's proteins still floating around in the blood of long COVID patients.
Yes, which strongly suggests that maybe the virus, or at least pieces of it, hangs around long after you think you've recovered.
Like hidden reservoirs somewhere in the body. That could be driving these chronic symptoms.
That's the implication. It's work coming out of TGen, the Translational Genomics Research Institute, part of City of Hope working with the Lundquist Institute folks. They believe they've identified what could be that crucial biomarker.
A real, tangible step, something doctors can actually measure.
Precisely, that tool they've been looking for.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. These ghost proteins, what are they specifically?
So the study, which is published in the journal Infection, identifies them as protein fragments from the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And they found them inside these tiny little biological packages called extracellular vesicles, or EVs.
Extracellular vesicles, EVs,
Okay.
the fragments themselves.
They come from a specific viral protein called PP1AB. Now, this protein is essentially the virus's copying machine.
Ah, like its own little factory worker making more virus.
Exactly. It's an RNA replicase enzyme. And here's a really critical point highlighted by Dr. Asghar Abbasi, the study's first author. This PP1AB protein, it's unique to SARS-CoV-2.
Meaning you won't find it in healthy human cells.
Correct. It's a clear signpost that says virus was here.
Okay, and back to those EVs, the extracellular vesicles. You said they're like tiny packages.
Yeah, think of them as little messenger cells send out. They're naturally produced, and they carry stuff between cells, proteins, genetic material, other molecules.
So the researchers thought maybe these EVs are carrying the viral leftovers.
That was the hypothesis. If the virus or bits of it were still circulating or hiding somewhere, maybe these EVs would pick up those fragments and ferry them around in the blood.
Acting like a diagnostic signature you could detect.
Exactly. So that's what they looked for.
How did they do it? What was the study setup?
They took 56 blood samples from 14 patients. These patients were actually part of a separate study looking at aerobic exercise over 12 weeks.
Okay.
And within those samples, using advanced techniques, they managed to identify 65 distinct protein fragments that came specifically from SARS-CoV-2.
65 different viral pieces. And crucially,
these viral peptides, these tiny protein fragments, were found in the EVs from the long COVID patients. But when they looked at a control group,
people without long COVID.
even better pre-pandemic samples, blood collected before COVID-19 even existed, and those viral fragments were not there.
Wow, okay. That's pretty compelling, finding them in the long COVID group and not in the pre-pandemic group.
It really strengthens the idea that SARS-CoV-2 might persist in some tissues long after the acute infection, and that this persistence could be linked to long COVID.
Right. And you mentioned something else, that maybe these EVs could even help the virus get into places it normally wouldn't, like the brain.
That's another question this raises, yes. Could EVs be a sort of Trojan horse, carrying viral material into sensitive tissues without needing the usual cellular doors, the receptors? It's speculative, but interesting.
Okay, so finding these fragments specifically in long COVID patients seems huge, but science is never quite that simple, is it? There are always caveats.
Always. And Patrick Parrott, another key author from TGen, pointed this out. The signal they detected, the molecular signature of these viral bits, it was quite subtle.
Subtle, meaning hard to detect.
And importantly, not consistently found at every single time point they collected blood from the patients.
So it wasn't like a constant, strong signal. What does that subtlety suggest?
Well, that leads to the really big fundamental question here. What do these fragments actually mean?
Right. Are they signs that the virus is still actively making copies of itself somewhere, ongoing replication?
Or are they just leftover bits? Like cellular debris, remnants that the body is still cleaning up months later, sawdust, after the construction crew has left, basically.
Active virus versus cellular trash. That's a critical difference.
It really is. And the researchers noted they didn't find other larger proteins you'd expect to see if the virus was actively replicating in large amounts. That leans a bit towards the debris idea.
But it's not definitive yet.
Not at all. It's a key open question.
And Dr. Stringer brought up another important point, didn't he, about control groups?
Yes. They haven't yet run these specific tests on people who had COVID-19, recovered fully, and don't have long COVID symptoms.
Ah, okay. So we don't know if maybe everyone who gets COVID has these fragments floating around for a while, whether they feel sick long-term or not.
Exactly. Are these fragments unique to long COVID sufferers, or are they just a general sign of the body's ongoing cleanup process after any SARS-CoV-2 infection?
So that distinction, active replication versus just persistent trash removal, that's the next big thing they need to figure out.
Absolutely. Understanding that mechanism is crucial to knowing what these ghost proteins truly signify. That's the next research hurdle.
So let's bring this back to you, the listener. What's the takeaway here? Finding these SARS-CoV-2 protein fragments in EVs from long COVID patients, well, it feels like a genuinely significant step.
It really does. It offers the potential to shift diagnosis away from solely relying on symptom reporting.
Towards something concrete, measurable, moving from how do you feel to potentially seeing what's happening inside your body. That offers real hope.
Hope for better diagnostics, definitely. And maybe, down the road, for more targeted treatments based on what's actually going on biologically.
Of course, those big questions are still there. Is it active virus or just leftover junk?
Yes, those need answering. But even with those questions, this research provides a solid, tangible starting point, a biological anchor.
It allows scientists to ask more focused questions now, to design studies to specifically investigate these fragments and their role.
Which just wasn't really possible before in the same way.
So, as we wrap up, here's something to think about. If it turns out that viral fragments can hang around in the body and potentially contribute to long-term illness, like long COVID, what might that tell us about other conditions?
That's a fascinating question. Think about other post-viral syndromes, things like ME/CFS, maybe even some autoimmune conditions that seem to follow infections.
Could this discovery, these ghosts from COVID-19, actually reshape how we investigate and understand a whole range of chronic conditions?
It certainly opens up that possibility. It forces us to consider the long-term footprint viruses might leave behind, long after the initial battle seems over. What other ghosts might be lurking in other chronic illnesses?
Something to definitely keep an eye on, a potentially profound implication for human health overall.